Happy 2020 and welcome into lcpioneers.com live presented by PioStream as we start our shows for the year 2021. Happy New Year to everyone who's been with us over the course of now 9 months, dating back to the last day of March a year ago, keeping you connected with student athletes, coaches, members from the Lewis and Clark College community, and our alumni 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Goff. I am the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark, the Pioneers out of Portland, Oregon, and a member of the Northwest Conference, a 9-team conference with Lewis and Clark competing in over 18 intercollegiate athletics programs for a total of 19 teams that compete at the NCAA Division III level. There's over 430 institutions competing at that level, and a chance for our student athletes to compete on a national scale. And then, of course, in non-pandemic times, Lewis and Clark sports a robust overseas study program, so a chance for our student athletes and students alike to go get that global experiential liberal arts education. Like we've been doing, one guest per show, and we continue that today. In a few minutes, we'll bring in junior for women's tennis. Rachael Rice will join us to get a glimpse into what fall 2020 was like for Rachael and the tennis team on the heels of losing the spring season in the middle of March last year because of the pandemic. And we'll also ask what it was like to come to Lewis and Clark, be a member of this tennis team, and then win Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year in her first year competing for the Pioneers. So that conversation coming up in just a few minutes. And of course, we do want you to get involved. You can leave comments in our Facebook Live comments. That's where we broadcast the show live at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time. You can always email us as well if you have a suggestion for a future guest, something you would like to see on the show. We always welcome that input. You can do so sports@lclark.edu. And then, of course, we're available on Twitter and Instagram as well. LC Pioneers, our handle on both of those. And one thing that we've been continuing to do is keep your information active at lcpioneers.com. Of course, you can see right now a lot of our past lcpioneers.com live interviews, but this includes our COVID information site. If you go to lcpioneers.com/COVID, we do have information available regarding everything Northwest Conference, NCAA, and any other information pieces that involve athletics. There's also a link to the Lewis and Clark College COVID-19 response site as well. That's available through our link, lcpioneers.com/COVID. We invite you to bookmark that as we will continue to update that with all the information that we have as it becomes available. Last but not least, I mentioned all of our past shows available to watch on demand. That's through the Fan Zone. If you go to lcpioneers.com, click on the Fan Zone on the top menu, there's a whole bunch of links that pertain to being a fan of Lewis and Clark athletics, one of which is a link to lcpioneers.com. But you can also get these through our YouTube page. Thanks to everyone who has been subscribing to the YouTube page, because once we get into more of a non-pandemic schedule, as soon as that is possibly able to be done, we'll continue to update the YouTube page with more content outside of just the lcpioneers.com live show. But that said, we do have a playlist for all of our shows dating back to last March. All right, let's bring in our guest for today, a junior for Lewis and Clark women's tennis. Had tried to catch up with her last semester, now able to do so as spring semester is a few weeks away. We welcome in Rachael Rice to the program. Rachael, thanks so much for being with us and giving a chance to catch up with you and hear how things have been. And that's kind of the starting point lately. Everyone's experiencing the pandemic in their own way and all the changes and adjustments we've had to make. So let's ask you what it's like. You know, what's been keeping you busy? What was winter break like? A break that I suspect might have been slightly unique from those past.
Yeah, first off, thank you for having me. And then, yeah, winter break, it was very different because normally I go home. I'm originally from the East Coast, and I ended up staying in Portland because of COVID. Obviously, I just thought it was safer not to travel through airports. So yeah, it's been different because, I'm not around my family, but thankfully I have great housemates and great support here. So I just spent the holidays with friends who are still in town.
Yeah, and I can imagine it's got to be tough not to see the family over the course of winter break and have, I guess, kind of that sense of normalcy. But it is special to hear that you chose Lewis and Clark coming from the East Coast. And with all of our student athletes, we like to get that origin story. So let's find out yours. What was it about Lewis and Clark and the opportunity to compete for the Pios that brought you to Portland?
Yeah, well, so originally my dad is actually from Salem. So I came back to the area a lot when I was younger. And then in high school, I came back a couple of times and I was obviously looking. I wanted to play tennis in college, so I was looking at schools around I was like, why not just look while we're here? And found Lewis and Clark, met Jimmy, who's our coach, and I just thought it was like a really pretty campus, a lot to offer as far as academics. Then I came back for a recruiting trip, and I really liked. Obviously, I liked the coaches a lot. The girls on the team were super nice. I felt like the level was pretty good. And I mean, obviously, I got in. And I just decided, this was probably the place for me. I really like traveling, and I wanted to like be somewhere different for college. So that also impacted my decision.
Yeah, and I mean, what an outstanding first year with the tennis program. As I mentioned at the top, a conference freshman of the year honor. Uh, it's easy for me to assume that the transition from high school tennis to collegiate tennis wasn't that hard for you, but that's an assumption. Give us a glimpse on what that adjustment was like and why you were able to have such a stellar first year.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of things here. As far as high school tennis, like I played a lot of USTA, which is like the main way that you get recruited. And you're not allowed to have any coaching like on court during matches. So that was like a huge transition for me. Because like just being able to have people there who were like supportive and like were like helpful was like crazy. And I definitely like I struggled with it at first. I was like, no, like stop talking to me. Like I need to figure this out myself. But like obviously coaches know what they're talking about. So it was definitely a little bit of a like communication struggle at first. As far as practices, obviously they're like a little bit longer than I did in high school, but I honestly love being on the court. So it wasn't like practices that really were that different for me. But it was also like the team aspect was just like crazy, and I think that's really what helped me do so well is like I met some of like my best friends on the team, and like just having that atmosphere during matches where everyone's cheering you on and like you're excited for like your teammates and you want to like win it for them. That was definitely helped me push through. And in a couple of tough matches, I know I had a lot of three setters my freshman year that I pulled out or I won tiebreakers. So definitely having the team there behind me was like huge for me. And then I'm just like super competitive, so I absolutely hate losing. So that was another, just bringing that out a little bit more was a determining factor for. Honestly, I really felt like I don't know. I was surprised when I got the freshman of the year just because I hadn't really been thinking about it. But then I was like, oh, I probably have won a lot of matches. So that was pretty funny to me. I was like, oh, okay. So
That's
yeah.
the voice of Rachael Rice joining us on lcpioneers.com live, junior for tennis. And I guess I'm not surprised in the sense because a lot of times when you have an award caliber season, you mentioned you're competitive, all these things that lead into it. And so sometimes you're just kind of doing the thing that maybe you're used to doing, but on the outside looking in, it's a standout achievement. And so you're honored with that. And you brought up this idea of the team. And one thing I love about talking to tennis, rowing, golf student athletes is you're also kind of co-opt with the other side with the men's team. You travel a lot frequently. Tennis isn't exactly like that, whereas golf is a lot times more. But point being, I feel like you build a relationship with both sides. So describe what it's like to be part of women's tennis, but also the tennis team as a whole.
Yeah, I absolutely love our team. I love the men's team. I mean, obviously, so I met the women's team first, but I just remember like freshman year, all the guys were like super nice, like super inclusive. Like we all did like activities, like team bonding activities together. A lot of the guys were in the same major as me, so they were always like willing to help with like that. And then like when we travel together, it's just like it's so much fun because we all know each other so well, and we're like we go cheer on the guys team, they come cheer on our team, and like you just know that they like have your back, and it's just it's a great feeling to just have that extra network that you can connect to. And even in practice too, like I'll go practice with the guys sometimes in the off season, and like there's no problem with that, so that's like really awesome.
And one other thing you share in common is the coaching staff. when
Mhm.
you talked about Coach Chow, and there's a lot of coaches that work with the student athletes in the
Mhm.
tennis program at Lewis and Clark. Give us your inside look at this coaching staff and what they bring to you.
Yeah. So, our main coaches right now we have Jimmy, Amy, and Paulkin. And they're just like literally like amazing. They are probably some of the best like tennis coaching staff in our conference. Like Jimmy obviously played at Lewis and Clark, has a lot of experience being a coach. He's really great with organization and just like team technical details. Amy played at U of O and UP, and like I work with her a lot because she just like is really motivating, and like she's a female, she understands kind of what it's like to go through these college like athletic stuff and like have a social life and do like have a major. So she's like a coach, but also like I feel like she's my friend. And she's just really good. She's really helped my doubles game a lot because she was really good with that. And then Falcon is just like a great dude, great with technical stuff. Like really excited to always like be around us and like pumping us up, and like I just feel like our coaches are super supportive, super good coaches like as far as tennis, and then they also like make sure that like we're doing okay personally too. So that's like all I could ask for, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's a good aspect of mentorship in there as you describe
Hmm.
that relationship. And I have to imagine it was tough for everyone then when you go back to last spring. The season is called off in the middle of the year, right about mid March. Everything kind of shut down. And then in the fall, there's no ITA championships like you're accustomed to. Walk us through what it was like to lose the spring season and then clearly the fall. What was that practice schedule like? What were you able to do? Give us a glimpse into
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, so spring season, we all got like super close. We had this really fun trip to California where we were just like playing a lot. We were like having a ton of team bonding. I remember like another girl on the team, Macarena, she was like, she looked at me, she's like, oh man, I wish our team could like stay like this. And like kind of was some bad foreshadowing, but like obviously COVID hit and like we didn't really think anything was gonna happen. And for me, I was like so excited for season. I was playing, so I had moved up. I was playing three my freshman year, and I was playing one last year, and it was just like super motivating because like obviously the players were better, and it just like I was working harder. I was just ready to like play and get into conference play. So that was like really hard, especially for the seniors that like I was expecting to have so much more time with them, and we were all so close. Like we had some really good team bonding at the end, and it was just really sad. It was really sad. So I had a very hard time with that. But we all like kept in touch and like did Zoom calls over the summer. Still tried to just be close. And then this fall, um, we were still practicing like a lot. I think we were still practicing like four or 5 days a week. So we are still able to do like pretty much all the practice stuff, and we would do like practice matches and stuff, but it's not the same. And like ITA is like where you can individually like really shine, or like with your doubles partner. So like obviously was looking forward to that because it's always a goal for me to make like a deep run in ITAs. So but honestly, I just felt like we still were able to have like that team time, like met the freshmen, had like team bonding, and like I still think my game improved, was able to improve. So I'm really looking forward to spring and having like competition.
Absolutely. And like I said, we're going to keep everyone updated on our website, lcpioneers.com, because I imagine there will be movements and things that we have to adjust with on the fly, because that kind of seems to be the theme with the
Hmm.
pandemic. But right now, still planning to compete in the spring with the sport of tennis. Rachael Rice is our guest on lcpioneers.com live, a junior for women's tennis. You can join us Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live for the show. We plan to continue it throughout the course of the spring, and then of course watch on demand at youtube.com/lcpios. And you declare, as a chemistry major, I am super excited to hear specifically about COVID and seeing what's going on through the eyes of a chemistry major, because that seems neat to me. But I do want to ask you first, what was it about the chemistry major that appealed to you? Did you know right away, or is that something that developed?
I actually think I came in thinking I was gonna be a bio major, um, and then I kind of just took some chem classes, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting and really fun. I think I really like languages, and I think that chem is almost like another language. So it's just really fun and like super difficult, but I really have been enjoying like learning more about it. So yeah, I kind of switched around what I was doing. I'm still taking some bio classes, but definitely can like grab my interest.
Now, I mentioned COVID and getting your
Mhm.
perspective as a chemistry major. How has COVID impacted you in terms of the way that you see it as a chemistry major?
Well, I mean, it was actually super interesting because I took a structural biochem class this semester, and we had several journal clubs on like actually how like SARS-CoV-2 like infects people and like what they're doing to work with on like vaccines and stuff. So like I felt like I had like a pretty good knowledge of like what was going on in the world and like how quickly the vaccine was coming out. Like I think it helped calm me down in some aspects. Like obviously a lot of people were like very freaked out, and I feel like there's a lot of misinformation like out on the internet, but having like a class where you're like learning factual information about something that's impacting our entire it's a global pandemic that's impacting like our entire world right now is it was just like super interesting. I don't think that that is something that normally happens. So it was kind of cool, kind of scary, but it was really awesome to like actually learn about it in my class.
Well, I think it is a time where people, like I said, are adjusting on the fly, and routines look different. It was
Hmm.
kind of refreshing, to be honest, in a way that like tennis in the fall was fairly similar to how it's been in the past, as much as it was capable of doing. But that
Hmm.
said, I mean, routines are different. What are you doing? To keep yourself busy. I think you said you had music as a hobby. Is that something you're still able to do, or is even something as simple as a hobby look different nowadays?
Yeah, no, so I've been able to do like I bought a keyboard, so I've been able to, play my music here while I'm while there's not as much to do. Definitely it's really interesting because like the social aspect is not there as much, so I found myself with a lot more free time to just kind of explore things that I want to do. So I've been reading a lot more, definitely doing music, like working on like languages, and then especially in the off season, I'm still trying to keep to like a good workout schedule because I think that helps like my mental health, and it helps me feel like my best self. So yeah, I've just been trying to, and it's hard to do a routine, especially like right now, like you said, because everything's adjusting, and like there's different things that you need to do like every day, and things change. But I'm just trying to keep myself in as much of a routine as I can because I think that's probably the healthiest for me right now.
Are we going to get you on the show later to play us something on the piano or the cello or something like that?
I mean, sure, if you want.
Tiny Desk concerts coming soon to lcpioneers.com. Uh,
Yeah, you gotta find some other student athletes. We could do like a quartet thing or
There we go.
something.
There we go. We'll be able to set that up for sure. Rachel, like I said, it's great to finally catch up to you. It's one thing I miss the most is being on campus every day and just passing people in the hall. I don't get to see and talk to student athletes
Hmm.
as much as I would hope on a day
Hmm.
in and day out basis, but certainly appreciate making some time for us and giving some insight. We appreciate you joining us in lcpioneers.com live.
Of course, thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you. That's Rachael Rice joining us on the show. Um, I regret when I say the word neat when it comes to the pandemic, because there's nothing neat about the pain and suffering that's coming through in terms of death, lingering sickness. And so I hate when I use that word, because I have a natural curiosity. It's what I enjoy the most about doing the show and getting some perspective and slowing down long enough to ask 15 minutes worth of questions of one of our student athletes. And when she mentioned it as a chemistry major, I hadn't had an opportunity to get perspective on what it's like to be in the middle of a global pandemic through the eyes of someone who's studying something like chemistry. And so that's certainly why I asked that question, but I was disappointed in myself that I said it that way. But that said, you can see, and I've seen this shared from others. The volleyball team comes to mind. I saw a post recently that two of the current student athletes for volleyball are studying or helping at clinics in the COVID realm, and that is an opportunity that I think for our student athletes to get involved and try to better society. I mean, you heard Rachel talk about that idea as being able to understand and get real factual information about the pandemic. I mean, that is an opportunity that you wish maybe doesn't happen, because ideally we wouldn't be in this situation. So it was neat to hear that answer, but I certainly wish that I hadn't phrased it that way, because I am grateful that the people that I've been closest to have been healthy so far, and that is not the case for everybody. So it was a good conversation with Rachel. Clearly, I kind of also admire that description of, I was just doing my thing. I didn't even think it was that great of a year, but clearly it was, her year to win Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year. And I think that that's a trait that I hear in a lot of student athletes who compete at a high level. A lot of athletes who compete at a high level is, I just worked as hard as I could. I was prepared and I did the best I could. And it felt like I was doing what I should do. Just so happened to win an award. So that was really fun. And like I said, we tried to have Rachel in in the fall, and we weren't able to make that happen. So I'm thankful that we were able to do that today, and pleased that you were able to join us as well. Coming up on Thursday, we have to skip the show tomorrow because we have an athletics department staff meeting. So we'll talk on the 7th of January with Joe Bushman, the assistant head coach of Lewis and Clark football, the offensive coordinator who was in his first year with the team, the 2019 season. So we'll talk about first year team competes, gets the 4-5 record, the best record they've had in quite some time. And then on the heels of that, go through the fall 2020 season and not be able to compete. So hear what it was like to develop players, continue to implement changes as the offensive coordinator, bringing in a new system, how the team was able to get behind that as well, even in a situation where you're not able to play the normal 9 games as you usually are. That conversation coming up Thursday on lcpioneers.com live. So for you watching and for Rachael Rice for joining us, I'm Ryan Goff. Thank you so much for having fun with us. We certainly missed you over the course of winter break, and we look forward to having you back on Thursday for another live episode, as we do Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, and all of our shows available to watch on demand at lcpioneers.com in the fan zone, or at youtube.com/lcpios. Until we see you there, and Edgar, I didn't say it, but if you're still here, we also missed you, so it's good to see you as well. I appreciate you taking the time to join us. We'll see you again on Thursday for more of the show. Goodbye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Nick Lombardi. Something I've learned at Winter Room this year is how to communicate a vision.
My biggest takeaway from Winter Room is probably the networking. Getting to talk to everybody, connect with people for the future is one of the most valuable things, and I did Winter Room last year, came back for more this year.
I think the way in which my liberal arts education has really helped me and my group formulate our ideas is that concept of critical thinking.
My favorite spot on campus would either be the glade outside of the athletic facilities or South Campus.
What is my favorite spot on campus? I really like the back porch of the Manor House. It looks out on Mount Hood, and on a clear day, it's super beautiful just to sit around with friends.